Good morning. Hi, Kuchil. Kuchkinam Sinesne, otherwise known as Eric Pelkey. I'm the Hereditary Chief of the WSANEC Nation. I come to you today to talk about the importance of herring to our people. Herring have been a staple for our people, a critical food source that gone back for thousands and thousands of years. When far back as I can remember, we've been worried about the herring, about what's happening with them. In the early 1900s, my great-grandfather, Chief Louis Pelkey, attended the Indian Reserve Commission to ask him to protect our reserve in Ganges Harbor. Asked him to protect our reserve there under the treaty, and that was the early 1900s. He said that that reserve is so important because it was our main harvesting area for herring. My great-grandfather had a longhouse there. It was on the west side of the bay, and he used to move the entire family there when the herring harvesting was going on. Moved the entire family over there. So there was upward of 60 to 70 people living in the longhouse at that time. And that's all they'd do is they'd harvest herring and they'd hang them in the smokehouse, in the big house there that was there. And there'd be fires going all the way through. And they'd smoke the herring to preserve them. And that they used that not only for a storage for a food source, but also used it for trade. And we've seen documentation that showed that we were trading as far up as Yakima Nation, and as far south as Columbia River and the tribes down there. So we were pretty widespread in the trade of herring, and they were a main trade item besides being a main food source. And the herring weren't always migratory. Throughout the year, we were able to catch herring and live off herring. So it wasn't just a one-time a year occurrence. So we've always wanted that. And then what's been missing lately is herring for our longhouses. Traditionally, the winter is our longhouse season, our winter dance season for our ceremonies that carry through from October until April. And all through the season, the people would be bringing smoked herring to the longhouses for the table to feed the people. But when it came to March, that's when our people got fresh herring brought in, and our people were fed herring, and they always looked forward to that. And I remember I was looking forward to that all the time. So since maybe 30 years now, since we've stopped getting herring for our table. Now herring has to be brought in from up north, and it's still a treasured item amongst our people on the tables. One of the things that the loss of herring has done. It's endangered the general health of our people. The people depended on the oil that they got from eating herring into their bodies. And it's created a malady that's become common amongst our First Nations women, affecting their liver. And it's sometimes fatal, like it was for my sister. My sister suffered from this disease that was a result of the lack of herring or lack of seafood in her diet. And there was a great mystery in the hospital. And all the time that she was suffering in the hospital, and the doctors were trying to diagnose what was wrong with her. This went on for a long time. And when it got close to the day where she'd no longer be with us, suddenly a doctor came over from Vancouver, a specialist, and he wanted to examine her and run some tests. At the end of all his tests and examinations, he approached our family and he told us that what my sister had was common amongst the First Nations women because of lack of seafood in their diet. They were missing the essential oils, he said, that our people had become historically adapted to having these seafoods. So without them, it left a deficiency in their diet and a deficiency in their systems. And as a result, a lot of the women ended up getting these diseases. But by the time he diagnosed that, my sister was on her last legs. And he said she was too far gone to recover. And what really bothered us is that he told us that it was caught early enough. It was treatable. It was treatable, and that she didn't have to die. And that really upset us. And we said, well, if it's well known amongst the medical profession on the West Coast here, why hasn't it been broadcast to our people? Why hasn't the health authorities done something about it with our First Nations women? And he just said, well, I can't speak for my profession. I can only speak from my own experience and knowledge. But I can tell you that it is a well-known fact. So that was pretty upsetting. But since then, I hear that a lot more of our First Nations women are being treated for this malady and are surviving. But it shows you how we as a people need seafood in our diet. We've historically become dependent on seafood. And without seafood, we lose our health. We lose the health that we have. So I have been fighting for to save our herring for many years, trying to sound the alarm that the loss of herring is the loss of a basic staple amongst our people. And when our people have always said, when you lose the herring, you will then lose the salmon. And when you lose the salmon, then you lose the whales, sea lions, seals, killer whales. all those things will start disappearing once you lose the salmon. And when you lose the herring, you lose the salmon. So that's why we've been fighting to get this restored and give the herring a chance to revive, have a chance to revive. I know a lot of people think that herring are just migratory, but we that lived here for thousands of years say we see herring year round, and only the big migratory schools come in during those months of migration and to come in to hatch, and that's when you see a lot of the herring eggs available to our people. But it slowly disappeared here, slowly disappeared within the Saanich Nation because of overfishing and lack of control of resources. There's lack of control over what goes in our water, lack of control over what comes out of our water. And the quality of water is endangered, the ability of the herring to survive. And what is being dumped into our oceans now, we feel is criminal, because you're killing what's in the ocean. And once that goes, will we ever get it back? So I'm asking our people, the general public, for support on the closure of herring fisheries in the Salish Sea. Save the herring, let them live. Halit Lastanat is what we say, let them live, let the herring live. Halit Lastanat. So that's what the message that we want to put out there. Without herring, we will have nothing, and eventually you will have nothing. Everything will be just a memory. We've seen some movement from the Minister of Indian Affairs of Fisheries lately, and I hope this is a good sign. But really, there must be some control over the commercial industry and the raping of our bays of the herring spawn. Let them revive, let them live, so that we'll have a future. Our people have always practiced conservation, and this is the biggest conservation measure that's needed. Close down the herring fishery in the Salish Sea. Well, thank you for listening to me today. I really appreciate it, and I wish all of you well, and take care of each other and support each other in this fight that we have. Osiam Haichkaskin.